couldn't have been born skinny instead of so good looking. Oh. Hey guys, welcome to Bar Z. My name's Stan, and today we're going to be working on the Z-axis of the DRO, and I'm going to bring you in a little closer, and we're going to go over some of the special requirements on this machine. We're mounted up to a raw casting of unequal lengths. The actual reed head or the actual scale has to be pinned down in 3 places, each end and in the center, and you know, it has to run parallel with the bed in both directions. So you know, we've got some special requirements, but I'm going to bring you in, and for any of you that are asking, how do you determine what your axis is? Everything is in relationship to the spindle. When you're running parallel with the spindle, that's Z. On a mill, the knee and the quill are both considered Z. When you're going opposing to the spindle, that's X. So I just thought I'd help you out a little bit there and help you choose the right axis and use your terminology correctly. So that's a real simple way to remember it. The spindle is always used as a point of reference. We've already got some drilled and tapped holes in the bed of the lathe. We're going to see if we can reuse them. So let's get down here and check it out. And it's going to be tight today. I got to use GoPro for everything. There's no way I can get my tripod in there with a regular camera. It's going to be really snug, and the lighting's going to be tough, but we're going to do our best and hopefully answer all your questions. All right, let's get to it. Okay, I'm packed in here. I hope I've got enough tools in here, because getting in here is no fun. I don't fit between the chip pan and the wall to come down, so I have to slide in backwards from underneath. What you're going to see here is a couple of existing bolt holes that were in the Logan already. I think maybe they were for the original taper attachment or something like that. Now these are drafted castings. They tip back right here, and you're going to notice there's a feature where it takes a step in, runs the length of the bed, and then takes a step back out for this pedestal. So it's, you know, we need to see if we can use these bolt holes. If we can, fine. If not, we'll have to drill new ones, which I'm going to try to avoid. And all I'm going to do, I've got a couple of bolts threaded into them. These are Imperial. These are 1/4 20, which it's kind of the equivalent of the metric. I think they're the M5s that fit in these base blocks. These are the base blocks here, and here's one with the jacking screws in it. We've got jacking screws in there, so this is the ones they supply. You know, and here's a 1/4 20, so it's pretty much an equivalent. They're cap screws. They drop in. Diameter wise, they measure very close, but the thread pitch is very different. And I'm not going to be that guy that mixes and matches a bunch of hardware. What I am going to do is I'll probably mount all the base blocks with all 1/4 20s and just discard the metric ones, and then go ahead and mount on the base blocks with the metric stuff. But now you see we've got a gap here, and what that enables us to do is to get in there and drop a base block in behind that one, and you know, fill up that gap, and they give us little pin downs in the center to pin down the scale. What I need to make sure of first is that the 2 bolts that are in here now are tramming reasonably parallel. I just set the scale on top of the bolts. It's just going to rest there. I'm going to attempt for my next trick to get a magnet down here and tram that thing where actually, if you know what, if I can read it, that's all I really care about. I'm not going to try to get you guys in on it, but I'm going to try to get it in here so I can at least get a decent read. And I don't even know how I'm going to crank the knob yet. The knob's on the other side of the machine. So this is ridiculous. And I am not prepared. Look at me go. That's full scale, I think. Okay, that's coming off. I think we're good. Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna do a little bit of tramming here and see, how parallel those two bolts are to the bedways, and see if those bolts are even usable. I can use one of them. I might have to drill another one or something. Or on my mounting blocks, I could always slot the holes a little bit and give me a little bit of adjustment. So that counter bore that's built into the base blocks, I could always slot those slightly and do it that way. But let me climb out from under here and see if we can get a tram on this thing. I don't think I can reach the knobs from here. I can a little bit. No, not going to happen. All right, I'm climbing out from under here, and I'll do a little tramming, maybe with a mirror, so I can see what I'm doing and get an overall feel. If I'm within like a thou or two down that full length, the rest can be done with the slotted holes in the scales. If you remember, the scales actually have a little bit of adjustment in them for vertical arrangement. Okay, so let me climb out from under here, and we're going to tram this thing real quick, and then I'll probably have to climb back in. So let me get a hand on the other thing, and I'm out of here. Okay, as long as I climbed out, I went ahead and moved the camera, and I'm going to get it up on a 0 here. Okay, we're off there. I'm just going to do a 1 thou preload. I've already confirmed that it's going uphill, going that direction, so it should get on the climb. Oh, it's really bad. Yeah, those bolt holes aren't going to do me any good. I'm going to need to make an adjustment for them. All right. Okay, welcome back to the Talking Head. This is probably pretty funny for you guys. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments about just my head being in the frame here. You'll notice I've got a couple of 1, 2, 3 blocks clamped up to the bed with the Rick Gearhart Specials. Those were made for me by a viewer. They are stainless steel with solid brass jaws. So they were a natural choice for clamping to the bed so I don't damage the bed. And this gives me a place to take my scale and just bump it up and get it nice and parallel. And you can see I've got very little movement down here to that bolt. I still got my bolt screwed in, but down here I got a ton. So that thing's not even close to parallel. So what I think I'm going to do is with these pads, I'm just going to slot the holes. I'm going to make one so it goes up and the other one so it goes down. So I'm just going to drop in and extend those counter bores so the whole pad can move up and down so I can get it level. So it's kind of a lot. If I had to guess, by looking at that, it's a good, 200 thousandths, So we're going to check our elevation here and our elevation difference. I've got the scale laying flat against the two back castings. What I'm trying to do is as much as I can in here in one trip. I've got a little adjustable parallel. It's the smallest one I got. It's a little tiny Starrett. I'm going to slip it behind here and adjust it until I've got a good fit. That way I know what the difference in my blocks need to be. And I'm just going to keep spreading that turkey out until I get a nice feel in there. And I'm holding the scale back against the two castings at the ends. Make sure I don't have any rock or anything. And I'm holding it up where I want it to live. I think I'm pretty good right there. Yeah, I'm pretty close. The rest we can do with jacking bolts. So I'm going to pull this out very carefully and tighten it up. And this distance right here is now what I need, the difference between the blocks. I got to have, I'm going to run the center one full thickness, and then however much this is how much I got to take off of the back of the two end blocks. So I know that's the difference in my elevation this direction here. And then slotting the holes, getting these holes, get them slotted up so I've got some mobility on my elevation change. I think we got it all figured out. I can go machine all the mounting pads, and then come in one last time and get all three of them mounted. All right, but that's it. You know, I want to make as few trips under here as possible, so you guys don't have to talk to the talking head anymore. All right. So, okay, we milled our two outer base blocks, and we milled it off the backside. And the reason we did that, I mean, we could have milled it off the front and then re-counterbored, but they got so thin that there wasn't room for the cap screws. So what we're gonna end up with is just a bolt and washer that lets us adjust. And we want to make sure it's not going to hit our scale. Our scale on the ends goes right into that hole there. And as you can see, our bolt doesn't pin all that together. Our bolt at the uppermost and our scale at the lowermost, and even with the washer that doesn't come into contact. So that'll give us our adjustment. And then as far as our elevation change, this is our center bracket. This is our parallel that we set to check our center portion. And here we are here, very flush, and we're up on jacking bolts now, so we can adjust to suit as we're in there. All right, so that it's rocky now, but yeah, after we get our jacking bolts set up in there, we can dial that right in, no problem. So we're going to be doing all of our main adjustment in the center to keep that scale, or I'll use a short scale here, keep that scale from bending in, bending out, whatever. It uses these little clips, which our holes are already drilled and tapped here. It uses those clips in the center to pin it down, as so. All right, so that's the setup. It should be, gosh, it should be pretty easy to deal with all this now. I need to get in and drill all the holes. I'm going to drill the two holes for the outers first, fit the ends, and then use that to line up my center. So let's get these two outers on there and drilled and tapped, and we're going to be doing all the pin downs with 1/4-20s, just so we're not that guy. Okay, we got our brackets bolted in. We're centered on the hole. We just eyeball centric, quarter inch bolt in the middle of this large hole. And now we're going to take a transfer punch and center this one, so both bolt holes will be close enough, center by center. And we're just going to get a little spot on each one. Okay, we've got our second hole drilled. We used a drill guide to help us get in there. Just a nice flat block with a series of holes with all your common drill sizes. And now it's time to tap, and I don't have a tapping block. So there's a bunch of different ways. You can make one if you feel so inclined. I don't feel so inclined. I'm just going to put a little, yeah, right. I'm going to put a little anchor loop down the hole, enough to flood the entire basin. And if you've got square shank sockets, little 1/4 inch sockets, they're just wonderful for these tight spaces. But we're going to just attempt to get just that first thread started. Then we're going to use a little square, this little fella, and we're just going to check square, make sure we're going in pretty straight. All right, happy there. Now I got anchor lube all over my square, and we're going to check it this direction, and we're happy there. Now we're going to just take it in another couple of turns and check it again, make sure we didn't move. Get them started is the hard part, you know, because I mean you've got so much influence on those first starting threads. I'm just going to do one hole for you and show you how to tap into cast iron. A little dot of anchor lube goes an awfully long ways. All right, we're rolling here. Let's check that square again. And if you are out of square, best thing you can do is back off about a couple of turns, and then give it a little bit of influence in the way you want it to go, and get it running in again, you know, before you really start forming those leading threads. All right, That tap started good. We're ready to roll on in. And just one little drop of anchor lube helps with the cast iron. Cast iron is tough because it's got, I don't know, it just leaves like a powdery residue that just really freezes up your taps. It makes them so difficult to, there we hit bottom. It just makes that powdery mess in there that really binds up your taps. And a lot of times you're gonna have trouble getting them out. It's not on the way in that causes the problem. It's on the way out. All right, we've got a good thread started. This is a very slow taper plug type tap. I'm gonna have to come back with a bottoming tap and make sure I got holes or threads all the way down in that hole. I need to chase these threads up. That was the one that was already in there. And I'm just gonna chase them down to the bottom. And I measured these hole depths. I just made my hole the same depth as theirs. And I'm just cleaning these up. I'm not feeling anything. And there's bottom of the hole. Yeah, ratcheting tap handles, or if you can get a little set of 1/4-inch sockets that have the square drive, they're a wonderful thing. They fit all your taps. So, all right, so we're good. Just need a plug in that one, and this bracket's ready to mount. I just wanted to show you techniques for doing cast iron work and doing it dry. Use a little bit of oil, a little bit of anchor lube, something in there to lubricate it. It's that dry, powdery gray iron that really clogs up your tap, and it usually clogs it on the way out. When you break a tap on the way out, you're done. It turns a 1-day project into a 3-day project. All right, that's enough of this. Okay, so we got both of our ends mounted. I'm doing the GoPro by hand here, so it might be a little shaky. But those are done. Next up, we need to determine the length of our scale and get it mounted temporarily and check tram. And what we can do on these still is we can make small adjustments on the thickness of these. You know, whichever one ends up being thicker, or we get, you know, climbing uphill, we'll take that much out of one if it's close. If it's not close, we'll have to reassess that. But we need to check and make sure those are both on the same plane in this direction. All right, so let's cut a scale. Okay, I thought I'd show you a trick for doing the scale lengths. I've got the other end of the scale bolted in with the end cap over at the other end. I've got the end cap here loose, and I'm just going to bring these two together, and we're going to make a line right where we want that turkey to be, right here, and just make one little scratch mark in the extruded aluminum. And now we can take it over on the bench and put a little square on there and transfer that. Now we know exactly where to cut to have our end caps land right. Okay, here's a trick for you. The top is where we scribed. If you fish around with your scribe tip, you can feel it drop in. Take your square, run it all the way in till you bump. You can feel it bump into that scribe line. Now you can transfer to the other side. And we're scribed and ready to cut. All right, just thought I'd show you a little trick for aligning scribe marks. Okay, well, I got the long scale mounted, and we're doing some initial dialing in, and I did an end for end, and I was 0 down there, and I've got about 11 here, and so I need to jack. This one's closer to the bed, so I actually need to take these jacking bolts. You know, when I tighten these jacking bolts, see, I'm pushing the scale away from the bed. So I need to get a little bit of that out of there. Try to get this up on 0. And let me loosen this mounting bolt a little bit. I'm just going to do about half of it with the bottom, and I'll do the other half with the top in an effort to keep all this stuff even. All right, now we're going to go to the top. Here's a real trick, getting in there without messing with the indicator. Okay, so now I'm -5. I've got an improvement. And I'm going to jack it away a little bit here. And
For my next trick, I'm going to get in here within a couple inches of the gauge, and we're getting pretty close. We're within 1.5 thou, and doing all this without bumping the gauge. And here we're going for the last little bit of jacking bolt. And now we're going to tighten our main screws up, which is it's probably going to pull it back a little bit. A little bit. Okay, not bad. So within 1 thou, you need to keep bouncing back and forth. What I'm doing right now is I'm leaving this bolt loose. I'm not going to say loose, but I don't want to tighten down on it because the way that pad is, it could tip in or tip out, and that influences this too. I have them just barely snug just so there's no play in it. And I'm checking within about 1/2 inch of each end cap. I'm ignoring what it does in the middle. The middle could bow in, bow out, whatever. I'm not dealing with that right now. I'm just getting it even end for end. All right, but I thought I'd show you how we're doing those jacking bolts to get that, get this thing dialed in. Okay, I'm going to share with you a tramming technique that was taught to me by an old timer. Installing linear bearings, you put the first one in with a tape measure and get it secured and have a working carriage. And now you have to align a second linear bearing to the first linear bearing. It's longer than a straight edge you have. You don't have a straight edge that's accurate enough to go the full length. What do? And those things, we need to get them within a couple thou on the ends. And we're on the scale. We've got our dial indicator mounted on the cross slide. So I'm going to come into 0. I'm all the way at the very end of the scale on the support block. And what the bar does in the middle, we don't care yet. We're still going to do a center support, but whatever it does, we just let it do it. Now I've already done 3 trams. It's taken me 3 trams to get it where you're going to see it now. And I'm going to try to do this non-stop. I'm going to have to move the camera once, but let's roll the carriage. And like I say, we don't care what this bar does right now. It's just a big flimsy mess. The whole thing is you don't want to touch it. So we're just going to bring it down and let it do whatever it's going to do. And we're almost to the end of our travel, but we want to go down and check the other pad at the other end. So this is what was taught to me. We're going to make a mark right here on this indicator. We're going to record the reading. We came around 15, 16, 17, 18, about 19 thousandths. 15, 16, 17, 18. Yep. So that's plus 19. And we made a mark right on the center line of our indicator. Now we're going to remove this and flip. And I'm going to have to flip you guys too. Now we're going to come over to this other side. And let me get you moved. And get my indicator moved. A GoPro on a Noga is a wonderful thing. Then we're going to come back in here. Right back on our mark. And we're going to basically pick up where we left off. We're going to come in at 19, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yep. All right, and we're ready to, he just called it picking up where he left off. Now we're going to bring it on down. And like I say, we don't care what the bar does in the middle. It could be a figure 8 or a figure S, as long as we can get our reading. And we're coming up on our other base block. We want to make sure we don't jam the indicator. And right now, this is the only reading we care about. And you can see there, I'm 2 thousandths off over that full travel. That was, we just ran about 42 inches. So one last little bit of tweaking down here. And we got it. Okay, well, we've got our ends where they're even, and we we went ahead and did the top too to do the elevation, and that was really easy. After your pads are all leveled and everything, or your base pads, moving the scale up and down is no big deal. You just they got a slotted hole in the end. Now it's time to mount that center, and I've got everything lightly clamped together just so I can get a location. I just took a measuring tape and put it in the center, and we're ready to transfer punch. We can just transfer punch right through that and get a couple of marks on the bed there in the center, and we're ready to mount there. And that's going to keep that center from bowing in and out and doing anything funny on us. So we've got 2 more holes to drill and tap, and then we can start working that one. You know, that center has jacking bolts too, and you can probably tell right now I'm up on the jacking bolts. I am relying on those solely to get my elevation correct. But getting a long scale mounted is a pretty involved process. I've probably got about between 8 and 10 trams into this to get it where I am right now. So let's get those holes transferred. So that'll give me a couple spots to get in there and drill those. And those are going, like I say, I don't want to be that guy that mixes metric and imperial. We're gonna put those down with 1/4-20s as well. Okay, we're on the home stretch here. We've got all 3 of our mounting pads in, and I've spent a great deal of time tramming. And we're going to go down to this first one. This is about how you want to see it tram in. We're on the face of it. We're not up on top. We're tramming it in this direction. And I'm not even going to touch the gauge. I'm about a thou above. But we're going to make a sweep all the way to the center mounting pad. And your jacking bolts, I swear, are just a godsend. We're coming up on the center mounting pad right now. Oops, I just bumped. All right, there we go. So we started out a thou below. We ended up a thou and a half below, and it trams in pretty nice. But your jacking bolts, see, now I'm out here in the middle of a bar. You probably can't see the bar, but I'm going to push on the bar. Hello. Okay, that's how sensitive it is, and you need to be able to, your end caps and your center section can influence the bar in a figure 8, in a figure S, in a figure R, elemental PQRST. So you need to be able to jack those around very subtly. You know, you can work the jacking bolts over here and see movement out here in the unsupported section of the bar. You want this thing arrow straight as you can possibly get it. That's going to affect your linearity and your linear measurements. You know, if it's S-shaped, it's like a time-wasting maneuver, and your read head has to go around corners essentially to get a reading. So you want these things straight. All right. Let me disconnect the camera, and I'll bring you down, and I'll show you the final on the installation of the magnetic strip. Okay, guys, our scale's installed, and as I already showed you, this is pretty flexy. You can see me deflecting it right there. So your jacking screws here actually have a lot to do with what's going on out here in this open space. These 2 jacking screws here and these 2 here, if you've got a positive or a negative bow, you can get it out of there and make sure your scale is running arrow straight. And it takes time. Anyone that tells you this is easy or fast is lying. So here's your scale. It's done. We're ready to install a read head. Alrighty. I think that's about all there is to this. Not that this was easy in any form or fashion. Even if this was a completely machined surface, the whole thing, you would still be tipping these around to get this scale to come in. All right. Hope this was informative, and let's move on to the read head. Okay, so we're ready to take on the read head. I've already installed the dog leg to the little T-bracket, and right here is where our read head bolts to. And all that goes in like this. Now they do give you another block, which they say you can put on right here, and then do that, and then come back in, but we don't even need that. Maybe on a bigger lathe we'd need it. So this block, not even going to get used. I've got a machine surface here, a very nice surface, and I've already got one bolt. So what I'm thinking is, we take this fella right here, we're going to calculate our drop, and see our reed head drops right on here. And if we cut and slot right up here, 2 holes, and I'll drill and tap another one of these 5/16 holes, we'll have a little bit of adjustability, and we'll be good to go. This is actually going to be pretty easy. Just lob this off so it's not hanging out in space, and shouldn't be too hard. So we're going to take a bunch off of this bracket. I'll make a calculation, make a scribe line, and just cut it on the bandsaw. And then we need to machine in a couple of grooves and drill and tap 1 hole here in the back. So I've got a little bit of adjustment there, but this shouldn't be that hard. So let's get to this. Okay, well, I think we're ready to install here. I am going to remind you that we didn't use this block. That just put us way too far back, so we didn't even need this. I modified my plate. This is the one that had the 2 long holes. I drilled and tapped 1 extra hole. These are 1 inch on center. They turned out to be 3/8. I thought they were 5/16. I don't even know what those holes were for. They were filled with crud. And I cleaned one of them out and drilled and tapped the other one. So this little guy's going to go here. And according to my calculations, it's not going to stick up far enough so that all this other stuff hits it. It's going to stay down below the surface, so everything's just going to blow right by. We got our reed head ready. We're making sure that our hash marks are lined up. They're facing bottom here, and my cabling's going that direction. So we're going to go ahead and install a reed head on our T bracket. And get that out of the way. I can't see myself getting in here and doing this after that little dog leg's all installed. Okay. Okay, reed head on the T-bracket. Let's take a good look at that. And now we're going to take our dog leg. We've got threaded holes in the bottom. I'm going to assemble these loosely. So I'm going to put this. All right. And they give you flat washers and lock washers for these, which is kind of neat, because I would worry about this vibrating loose. So it's nice that it's got some lockability. And we're going to start with it all the way out first. And I'm just going hand tight with these. I'm not going to run them in super tight. I'm going to make it so the reed head's away from the scale for now. And that's our assembly there so far. And now we're going to come up to here. I've got myself a couple of 3/8 bolts. And I gave myself a 1/4 inch of adjustability, so we can rock and tip and everything else. And I think this is going to go pretty quick and easy. I can't see anything wrong going here. Famous last words. Okay. Hand tight here, hand tight here. We're going to loosen here and loosen here. I'm going to drop my spacer in between there and take this little T-bracket in just till I feel it touch. My elevation is good. I'm dead center of that thing. So while I'm holding here, I'm going to go ahead and tighten up here. Make sure nothing moves. All right, done deal there. Still good here. My spacer's hanging out the back. I'm going to push in firmly with my finger to make sure those two stay in contact. And tighten up right here. And gosh, it should be just as simple as that. You know, we got our scales running real true. I'm not worried about them crashing into each other or rubbing a hole in the reed head or anything like that. And pull this out, and it's just got a nice firm feel on the way out. You know what, boys? I think we're done. That's it. Okay, I got to come up with a cover for this thing, but I don't see a big issue with that. I got a long extruded aluminum cover that goes all the way down, and it'll get a screw here and a screw down there, and it hides this whole thing. So this thing is pretty much very, very well protected. Not too worried about this one getting damaged. Well, this is too good not to play with. I had to hook up the 2 axes just because I saw the display sitting there, and I go, you know what? I can get two out of these working. And I had to set some scales. You got to go into the settings and tell them what resolution scales you have. And I'm just going to zero here. I'm going to do 1 full rev on my dial. And there's 1 full dial rev. We should be 100, but it's pretty darn close. And if we go to, you're on a diameter now. If you go to radius, there it is, 200. Okay, so it automatically will cut your work in half on the x-axis, whatever axis you select. In our carriage, I already ran it full left, full right. Make sure I didn't get any flickering or errors or anything on the way back and forth. So pretty cool. And we still have to do this other z-axis. This guy right here is that's what's going to go on the compound. But I've already ran these all through all their travels. Pretty happy. I'm having to hold this thing here, so I'm not going to go through all the menu and stuff. But I was kind of jonesing to hook it up real quick and see some numbers move around. All right. Okay, well, the cover's on it. I had to tweak it around a little bit to make sure it was dragging on the backside of the reed head. So you screw it in, check it, whatever. If you have to cut it, you pretty much with this with these shrouds, just do whatever it takes to get it to work. But I've got full travel. The reed head doesn't drag on the shroud anymore. And as you saw, we didn't get any errors or anything down the length of that scale. So I'm pretty happy. That is the z-axis. All that's left now is the compound. I've saved the hardest for last. Hope you guys enjoyed this segment, and we got one more part coming up to do the compound, and we should be able to wrap this thing up. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.